Hey everyone, this is Renier, and today we're going to see a recent game by Smirin against Abasov. Game played in the Baku Open in the last round. A French defense, Tarrach variation, and we're going to see some of Smirin's most creative play in the opening. E6, D4, knight D2, knight F6, E5, knight D7. Okay, all common theory so far. Now white plays knight Gf3, which is the variation that is the most popular these days. Knight E2 is the old and main continuation in the Tarrach. And now black has several moves: queen b6, bishop e7, a5, even h6 or a6 are possible moves. g5 is another move here, but it has been recommended g6 in a few publications, I think. Okay, the idea is bishop g7 and castle, and also followed by f6. That's the main idea: bishop g7, castle, and then f6. Black will have a good counterplay in the center. And now white plays h4, which is the most promising continuation, I think, with the idea of h5. Now this plan that I mentioned earlier is difficult if white has a pawn on h5, because he can always take on g6. So black plays h6 with the idea of if h5, g5, of course. And white now plays bishop b1. This move is not a novelty. It has been played 2 times before. I think number of moves have been played in this position, like queen e2, like maybe I think a3, some useful moves and waiting moves, because black still has possibilities of queen b6 and also possibilities of g6, g5. So what white wants is not to commit his play immediately and make some useful move to defend his center. That's the idea of bishop b1. The bishop gets out of d3, and he can always play now knight b3 in order to support d4, and or he can continue with knight f1, knight e3, and h5. Now without the bishop on d3, d4 is easier to defend. So bishop c2 is also another possible move, and perhaps better than bishop b1, because we will see in some lines that the bishop on b1 is not as useful as it could be on c2. Still, bishop b1 is a thematic idea, and I really like it, the way this game went. So let's see how black continues. Here he played b5. Abasov played b5, which is the move that I think is the right move. Other moves they seem too passive. For instance, queen b6 is the move that has been played in the 2 previous games, but white always kept a small advantage after knight b3 as usual. She takes d4, a5, a4. Okay, now in one game black went knight b4, but after bishop e3, queen c7, knight c1, the knight goes to the king side, b6, knight e2, bishop a6, castle, rook c8, rook a3, a very important move, because now white wants to play rook c3, and as you can see, white has a space advantage that is very steady. Black cannot really find counterplay, and after knight b8, rook c3, queen d7, rook e1, white's play is very simple. With his center defended, he's going to play h5 and create some weakness on the king side. Game continue with knight to c6, h5, g5, and now this weakens the square g4. After knight h2, bishop g7, knight g4, knight e7. White played f4, which is very strong. G takes on f4 first, bishop takes, and now the weakness on h6 is critical. This game, actually, White lost this game, but his position is already winning decisively. After rook c4, I don't remember what they played here. I think it was rook g3, but I think, according to my analysis, White could win by playing knight f6, bishop takes, pawn takes, and now if knight c8 or if knight c6, White can play rook e3, threatening b3 now. So the knight from c6 has to move to a7 perhaps. Now knight g3 with the idea of knight f5. White has double rooks on the e file, and knight f5 is coming on the next move no matter what black plays. For instance, king d8, b3, and still knight f5. Black cannot take because of rook e7. So anyway, yeah, it's still very difficult for black to play this position. Here, even instead of rook e1, also possible was to play h5 at once, and after g5, knight h2 with the rook on f1. Still possibilities of f4 with even more strength. And if g takes on h5, rook e1 with the idea of knight g3 or knight f4 and knight h5. Alright, so with knight b4, black didn't manage to equalize. He was not even close. And the other move is knight d7 to b8, which is probably better. Castle, bishop e7, bishop e3, and knight a6. This way black has some squares for all of his pieces, but still he has problem with his king side. He cannot finish his development with castle. He still has to play in the center, and it's always difficult. One way to continue could be bishop d3, with the idea of transferring this bishop, also connecting the rooks. Bishop d7, and now, okay, in the game White play g3, and what he should achieve is something like this: rook c8, knight fd2, knight cb4, bishop b1, h5. Perhaps it's not the best moment to play this move. King g2, queen c7, queen e2. Black has no plan in this position. Castling short side now is always dangerous with the king side. Dark square is so weak. So he went back, queen b6, knight f3, rook c6, queen d2, queen c7. This regroupment doesn't achieve much. Still there are no threats, and White with rook c1 trading one rook prevents whatever counterplay black may have on the c file. After rook c4 he went bishop g5, and White has a pleasant advantage. Okay, this is what he should strive for in this type of positions. But there was probably a better way to do it. That was, instead in this position, instead of g3, first play bishop b5. The idea is not to trade or do anything about this, but the idea is somehow disconnect the queen with the pressure that it has on the b file and on the knight on d3. Now White wants to play queen d2, for example. And after knight c7, the bishop returns one more square where it's better placed. And then knight a6, queen d3 with the idea of rook c1. Okay, knight b4 is always met with queen d2, so, and black has nothing in the position. After rook c8, rook fc1, knight b4, queen d2, for example. And White has everything under control, and he forces the move h5, and he can continue with bishop g5 then. Alright, so let's get back to the game. Black went b5, and now Smirin played the move a3. Interesting move. The alternative was knight f1, but after b4 and bishop a6, the a file is not open, so that's why Smirin preferred to play a3. a5, logical plan, knight f1, and now black played a dubious move in the opening that will cost him a lot later on. He should have played here, in my opinion, bishop a6 immediately, not before like he did in the game. Bishop a6, so he can capture on b4, always with the a pawn. For example, after a move like h5, perhaps it's better to play knight g3, and after b4, bishop d3, queen b6, and bishop e2. This way white can protect his center. He can capture on e2 with the knight, and he's ready to castle. That's important in this position. I think white keeps a small advantage this way, but if h5, then black can answer with g5, knight e3, he can take on d4, c takes d4 and b4, and this is a complete different story than what happened in the actual game. After bishop d3, queen b6, black is threatening d4, so bishop takes on a6, queen takes on a6, and here it's not so easy to castle. White has to play knight g1, bishop g7, knight e2, and f6. I think black has decent counterplay. I kind of like his position, even though I would take both sides. E takes, knight takes on f6, pawn takes b4, or castling is basically the same thing. Knight takes, castle, castle, bishop d2 and queen b6. Black has some pressure on the b file on the queen side, and I'm not sure what white is doing in this position. I think it's about equal, probably, because even if black is very active, his pawn structure in general is kind of weakened. White should always get some counterplay. Okay, so this is probably a better way, but like I said, after bishop a6, instead of h5, perhaps the best move is knight g3, and after b4, bishop d3 and short castle. Forget about h5. Perhaps this is the best way to play for white. I'm not sure if Smirin would have played this way, because he had this clear plan of h5. Alright, back to the game. After b4, pawn takes b4, black is forced to take with the c pawn, and this is a concession because he doesn't have now the same pressure in the center, and white now has to defend c3 only. And okay, the eventual counterplay should come from a4 and a3, but this is kind of slow, considering that a4 is controlled by the queen and also the rook on a1. So now white plays h5, which is a strong move, starting action on the king side immediately, and after g5, knight e3. Alright, black goes bishop a6, logical move, preventing the king side castle. And now Smirin played very interesting move, knight to g1. Still, it's interesting, is creative idea to play knight e2, castle, followed by f4. But if it's the best, I'm not that sure. Perhaps because it's bringing a piece back to g1 and then knight to e2 is time consuming, in my opinion. Kind of a risky move, giving time for black to create some counterplay. I guess bishop d3 is fine. After queen b6, castle, bishop takes on d3, queen takes d3, queen a6, queen back to d1. White still has a small advantage, and the plan of knight h2, knight g4 and f4 is still there. So I think this is a safe way to play the position with white. After knight g1, black went queen b6, knight e2 and queen b5. This is a good maneuver here. Now white played f4, still very optimistic, very aggressively, I guess. Okay, not necessarily the best move. Instead, bishop c2 for example, with the idea of bishop a4 sometimes, knight b6, bishop d2, this short move with the idea of knight c1 followed by bishop d3 and finally castle. But black has a4, which is a very good move. And now, okay, he wants to play a3, so you have to take, knight takes, rook takes on a4. Now the bishop on a6 is pinned, so white is actually threatening to castle kingside. So black must play rook a7, which is a very good move, and we have a situation here in which white is up a pawn, but he lost an important piece like light square bishop, and in my opinion he shouldn't go into this. He should not go into this variation because black has good compensation now. White's attack is an illusion in this position, and for just one pawn, the c3 pawn is not enough in my opinion. Okay, so Smirin played f4, and right, usually when you play this optimistic, your opponent believes you, I think is the word. He believes you, and often he doesn't find the correct moves. Here, I don't know why, but when the king in the center and the position now being under pressure with f4, g takes on f4 is a very strange decision here. I guess queen takes on a2 is the most natural idea to trade the queens, and now g takes on f4, knight g4, and here if white has some static advantage, static factors that favor him, like the two bishops, the space advantage, the wing is on h6, but black has some counterplay on the queen side that should not be underestimated. After a4 for example, bishop takes, a3, there are already some concrete ideas like moving the rook to b8 and breaking the white's pawn chain. So after bishop e3 defending d4, black could play rook b8, b takes on a3, b takes c3, and after rook c1, rook check. If king f3, okay, if white captures now on c3, he's still clearly better, but here black has an amazing move, very strong move. I think very difficult to see beforehand. Okay, once you're here, I guess it's possible. It's very likely to find the move, but to see the idea a few moves ago is very difficult. That move is rook d2, an amazing sacrifice, which of course white should not accept, because if bishop takes on d2, c takes d2, the rook cannot take on c6, and if you have to play rook d1, then knight d4 and knight back to c6, he will win many pawns. So this is not to be recommended. Here white should take the pawn, but after knight takes d4, king f4, knight e2 check, king f3, is black who decides if he wants to keep on playing or he wants to repeat with knight d4. Still, this should be, I mean, white should get a draw here with the two bishops, but okay, the point is that black already had the possibility of making a draw by repetition, and or he can try for more. Okay, after f4, very enterprising but perhaps not the best. Black took on f4, and after knight takes on f4, he faces a very difficult position. White is going to play bishop d3 followed by castle, an attack on the f-file, and there is no clear counterplay for black, as he has no pressure in the center anymore. He played rook g8, probably not the best move. Instead, rook b8 doesn't help, because bishop d3, queen b7, castle, bishop takes d3, queen takes d3. Nothing has changed. There are ideas with knight takes on e6 and queen g6. There are also ideas to just bring the queen back to d1 and put it on f3, then knight g4, and starting the attack from there. Okay, but probably the rook on b8 is better than a rook on g8. Rook g8, bishop d3, queen b7. Now white castle, and just look how his position has changed. Everything is coordinated, everything is what it's supposed to be. The pawn chain is strong, the knights are very active, and he has the open f file to attack the black king. Black played bishop d3. I have to say that rook g3, first idea that I saw, doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. Bishop takes on a6, queen takes, queen h2, rook g8, and now queen f3. In the same type of position, and so nothing is achieved by rook g3 on move 20. So he took on d3, knight takes, queen b5. Apparently black was counting on this move, keeping an eye on the knight on d3, but then queen f3, again very strong. If you take on d3, then queen f7 and queen takes g8, rook g7, defending f7, and again now very strong move, not wasting any time, knight to g4. Here white sacrifices material, but he gets a very strong attack after rook takes g4. Okay, castle is the move played in the game, but rook takes g4, queen takes on f7, king d8, and now the way to continue is not to take on e6 or anything, but to play knight f4. And after rook takes on f4, b takes e3. Black cannot defend e6. So followed by rook f7, or and then just keep on playing this position. Bishop a6, it would be a threat. Okay, perhaps this was a very practical chance for black than the game, because white is winning, but still he has to win the game. It's not that simple, even though it's not very difficult either. Rook f7 is simply strong, and then I think white just have to coordinate his pieces on the king side, remove the bishop and play rook a to f1. Okay, in the game castle, knight takes on h6, bishop e7, and now queen h3. White wants to gain a second pawn, and very important pawn, the f7 pawn. So rook f8, bishop d2. Another interesting move was knight f5 in this position, and after he takes bishop a6, again white is willing to trade two pieces for a rook, but he gets two pawns, and also the h5 pawn will be very dangerous. Rook g8 take, now take on f5, and if bishop g5, queen back to h3, threatening h6 basically. And if king c7, then rook f2 with the idea of rook a to f1, and rook takes on f7. So now he can block the pawn, rook f1, he can play knight d8, and c takes b4 with the idea of opening the c file and play rook c2 next, and perhaps even knight c5. It looks like white is on top again. Alright, so bishop d2 is the move played, and black played another bad move, I think. He played b3. Perhaps, well, I think his position is already difficult, so it's difficult to blame this move. On a4, white will simply play rook f2 with the idea of rook a to f1, and his pawns, the black pawns on the king side, on the queen side, are not going very far. He went b3, rook f3, a4, basically same thing. knight g4, white is threatening bishop h6 now, rook h7, rook f1, and now knight b6. Okay, the alternative was to play a3 immediately, but after b takes on a3, bishop takes on a3, rook b1, black will lose the b pawn. After b2, knight takes b2, bishop takes, and rook f2. Now white is threatening things like bishop e1, and if queen a5 to unpin the bishop, and also white cannot take on b2 because of queen a1 check, but white can play h6 now. Okay, he can get the piece back immediately by playing queen d3. Then black can play rook takes on h5, rook takes b2, and white is clearly better. But even stronger than queen d3 is h6, because he's threatening queen d3 now, and okay, it's not easy to see what black plays in this position. Queen d3 on the next move, and white should be winning. He should get the piece back in any moment. The bishop on a3 has no easy way out. Queen d3, if bishop a3, followed by rook a1. So okay, black played knight b6 in the game, bishop a6. Very strong move, I think. Rook f8, rook f2 h8, and now rook takes on f7. Again, white sacrifices the two pieces for a rook. But this is a brilliant idea, believe it or not, because this is a complicated position in which white is totally winning on the king side, but he also has to take care of a3 and some sort of counterplay on the queen side. Now, okay, black played rook takes on f7, which is a bad move, but the question is rook takes on h6. After knight takes, rook takes on h6. It would be interesting to know if Smirin had seen the continuation in this position. I think rook g7 is natural, and to continue with rook g6, and white is clearly winning. He has a much better position. But even stronger is rook 1 to f6. Very strong move. Very, I think, difficult to find, because now the back rank is unprotected, and okay, black will have some counterplay. After bishop takes, queen takes on e6 check, king b8, only move, queen d6, king a8, only move, queen f8 check, bishop d8. Again, this is all force. If knight d8, well, rook takes on f6, and both pieces are under attack, the knight on d8 and the rook on a6. So bishop d8 is the only move, and now queen takes on a6. And we have this position here in which black cannot take on d3 because white takes on c6. But black can play a3, and after pawn takes on a3, knight e7. Alright, I guess there is some counterplay, and white must play very accurately. Okay, first move is queen h8, attacking the bishop. If knight b2, which you can say, okay, I can play quiet as well with knight b2. Well, knight b2, we will have to see what happens on queen e2, which is threatening a perpetual check with queen e1 if you move the rook from the f file. But white has queen h8, and this leads to a very interesting variation. Queen takes d3, queen takes d8, knight c8, and now queen c7, threatening mate, queen d1 check, king h2, king g3, queen g6 check. Okay, queen g5 is basically the same thing. After king f3, g4, the white king escapes, all the way to g7, as we will see. Queen g6, king f4, queen e4, king g5, queen takes g2, king h6, check, king h7, check, king g7, and now if you give check on g3, black loses because king f8 and there are no more checks. So queen h6 is the only way to prevent queen b7 mate. Queen c6, king b8, e6, b2, e7, and now if knight takes on e7, well, yeah, rook takes on e7 and rook, and okay, and queen c7 is a serious threat, followed by rook e8. So in this position, black queens, white queens 2, queen g1, king h8, queen h2, king g8, check, and rook g7, and here black must sacrifice his queen for the rook, which leads to a lost position. Interesting variation, because if queen h2, queen f7, and there is no way to prevent queen c7 now. It's a nice variation. Okay, obviously no one sees all of this, but I don't know, once the situation arises, then you can get into this. Okay, but like I said, rook takes on h6. My opinion is that white was not going to play this move, rook 1 to f6. I think rook g7 and rook g6 is a simpler way, and not simpler, but perhaps safer. In the game after rook f7, this is like accepting the defeat, because after a3, b takes on a3 with the rook on the 7th rank already. After b2, black, of course, white will give up the knight, and black's counterplay is none, is 0 in this position. Bishop g7, rook h7, h6 now, queen b1 check, rook f1, queen e4. Black controls this diagonal, so white cannot play queen d3, but after knight f6, bishop takes on f6, e takes on f6, he has to resign, because f7 and f8 wins. Okay everyone, this is it. Here black resigns. Thanks for watching, and as usual, leave your comments in the forum. Thank you.